out there, everyone. You can call me Nooners. Well, it's been clear from my class this past semester that it's easy to find political philosophy on college campuses. No surprise there. But here's a surprise for you. You can also get some political philosophy from the comics in your daily newspapers. No, not you! Much better, but still not quite what I'm referring to. I'm actually talking about the legendary Calvin and Hobbes. One of the most famous comic strips of the past few decades. The strip was written by Bill Watterson and ran from 1985 to 1995, following the adventures of the over-imaginative, hyperactive 6-year-old Calvin and his pet tiger Hobbes. It's a very funny strip, you really should check it out. Interestingly enough, Bill Watterson named the two main characters after famous philosophers, John Calvin and Thomas Hobbes. Now Calvin was... No, not you, the other one. Calvin was a very influential Christian theologian in the early to mid-1500s who greatly believed in the influence of God's hand in events on earth. Hobbes was... Okay. Let's clear one thing up right now. You're John, you're Calvin, you're Thomas, you're Hobbes. Okay, there. Now that that's out of the way, Thomas did most of his work in the early to late 1600s and was one of the premier founders of materialism, the belief that the only things existing in this world are the things that we can identify with our 5 senses.
Why do you suppose we're here?
Because we walked here.
No. I mean here on Earth.
Because Earth can support life.
No, I mean, why are we anywhere? Why do we exist?
Because we were born.
Forget it.
I will, thank you.
John and Calvin wondered a lot about what God did on earth. The whole notion of the supernatural and religion was completely foreign to Thomas and the tiger. Thomas was also a firm believer in the fact that humans only work together to further their own personal interests. A basic sort of man-eat-man philosophy. It makes sense that Bill Watterson gave that attribute to the tiger, doesn't it? Heck, Hobbes even says so more than once.
I wonder why man was put on Earth. What's our purpose? Why are we here?
Tiger food.
You know, Hobbes, it seems the only time most people go outside is to walk to their cars. We have houses, electricity, plumbing, heat. Maybe we're so sheltered and comfortable that we've lost touch with the natural world and forgotten our place in it. Maybe we've lost our awe in nature. That's why I want to ask you, as a tiger, a wild animal, close to nature, what you think we're put on Earth to do. What's our purpose in life? Why are we here?
We're here to devour each other alive.
Turn on the lights! Turn up the heat!
One philosophy that both John and Thomas shared was that they were both, frankly, rather sexist. John said, and I quote,
"Yet consider now whether women are not quite past sense and reason when they want to rule over men."
In today's terminology, that translates into,
Women in power? Now there's a great joke.
and in the comic strip, Calvin also held a rather poor opinion of girls.
It must be awful to be a girl. I'm sure it's frustrating knowing that men are bigger, stronger, and better at abstract thought than women. Really, if you're a girl, what would make you go on living?
The thought of a jerk like you begging one of us for a date when you're 17?
Ha! Not me! Gross! Let's see what you drew for art class, Susie. Well, a tidy little domestic scene. A house in a yard with flowers. How typically female. Girls think small and preoccupied with pretty details, but boys think big. Boys think about action and accomplishment. No wonder it's men who change the world.
Yeah? What did you draw?
A squadron of B-1s nuking New York.
But there's something to keep in mind about Calvin. He's 6 years old. Of course he's going to scorn women. I mean, after all, everybody knows that they've got cooties. Well, you can find a lot of philosophy in Calvin and Hobbes. It's possible to be looking too hard. Now, there's another direct quote of John's that I think it pretty much encapsulates Calvin's daily life.
You must submit to the supreme suffering in order to discover the completion of joy.
Is there any better way to describe Calvin's regular day at school? He doesn't know any of the answers, he's picked on by the bully, he has no friends at recess, and just wants to get home. Because when he does, his best friend in the world is waiting there for him. Now, John and Thomas aren't the only philosophers to be displayed in the strip. Henry Thoreau gets mentioned by name, in fact, one day.
Sometimes I feel like our life has gotten too complicated, that we've accumulated more than we really need, that we've accepted too many demands.
Well, Thoreau says, simplify, simplify. Maybe we need to do that.
But how?
I hate it when they look at me that way.
The comic's creator, Bill Watterson, used the strip to vent about the workings of modern society around him, and he had a particular axe to grind with consumerism, making him a bit of a philosopher through cartoons.
What do you think is the secret to happiness? Is it money, power, or fame? I'd choose money. If you have enough money, you can buy power and fame. That way, you'd have it all and be really happy. Happiness is being famous for your financial ability to indulge in every kind of excess.
I suppose that's one way to define it.
The part I think I'd like the best is crushing people who get in my way.
Any good mail today?
Not really. Here's a "you're not covering the cost of all these mailings" charity request. You got a "you're not attractive enough" women's magazine with an article on swimsuits that minimize all your body flaws. Here's some "you're not stylish or ostentatious enough" catalogs, and coincidentally, an invitation to go deeper in debt from a credit card company. And here's our news magazine to identify the trend of the week we're missing. And I got a hobby magazine featuring new equipment I ought to have. Yikes. Why do I get the feeling that society is trying to make us discontented with everything we do and insecure about who we are?
I suppose if people thought about real issues and needs instead of manufactured desires, the economy would collapse and we'd have total anarchy.
So pitching this junk would make me some kind of terrorist, huh?
Yep, it's our patriotic duty to buy distractions from a simple life.
Hey Mom, I saw a bunch of products on TV that I didn't know existed, but I desperately need. I know more about the private lives of celebrities than I do about any governmental policy that will actually affect me. I'm interested in the things that are none of my business, and I'm bored about the things that are important to know.
The media aim to please.
Maybe the economy should be discussed in cheap motel rooms.
Now, I've only had time to scratch the surface here, what Calvin and Hobbes has to offer philosophically. Go check it out some more, and you may be surprised at what you find. Special thanks go out to my brother Andy for playing Calvin, my friend Tira Cox for playing Susie, my mom and dad for playing Mom and Dad, and my roommate Elliot Hedrick for providing the voiceovers for John Calvin. If you want to see even more Calvin and Hobbes voiceovers, visit my channel on YouTube. Thanks for your time, everyone.